Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Conversations with Women Living Well After 50, the podcast. Access to sanitary products is a right, not a privilege. Periods are a normal part of a woman's life, yet many women in Australia who are in poverty or homeless can't even afford the basic sanitary needs that we take for granted, such as tampons, pads and incontinence pads. Can you believe that this is happening in 2020? Can you accept that? My guest today couldn't accept that fact and actually did something about it. I'm delighted to introduce my guest in conversation, Rochelle Courtenay, Share the Dignity's founder, managing director, and the title she is most proud of, Pad Lady. Rochelle has led a team of volunteers collecting 2.5 million sanitary products across Australia, and I'm excited to be able to chat with her about this work today. Women Living Well After 50 is proud to support Share the Dignity and the work that it's doing to help women who are underprivileged have basic needs and rights. And I hope that after you listen to the program today, you will too, and you may want to even get involved. So let's go join the conversation. Well, good morning and welcome, Rochelle, and thank you so much for joining me today in conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I have followed Share the Dignity's journey, and I always participate in whatever way I can, whether it be dropping in some product or doing up a bag. But I wanted to go back to the beginning and just ask you to just tell me about how you started Share the Dignity, what was the catalyst, and how you came up with the name.
Yeah, look, back in February 2015, I read an article that was written by Mamma Mia that talked about how many homeless women there were in Australia. And at that stage, there were 48,000 women who didn't have somewhere safe to call home. And while I'd contemplated and thought about what that would be to not have a home or not know where food was coming from and how to keep your kids safe and all of those sorts of things, I'd never, ever thought that women were going without the very basic essentials like pads and tampons. And I couldn't believe that I was reading it. And then when even reading further, it wasn't the very first article to ever be written about it. It had been written about before. And I just thought, oh my God, that had just struck a real chord with me. And I'd suffered severely from endometriosis my whole life. So having accidents was my middle name pretty much, but I always had a shower and I always had another pair of undies and I always had sanitary items. So I couldn't imagine what life would have been like if that was not the case, right? So I think that was probably the reason why it resonated so deeply with me. And so from there, I was just like, then I started to look at other articles that were written, and it was really all about the dignity, right? And back then I had my own personal training business and I had a photography business as well. And I trained my clients down on the beachfront, and I asked them to bring me a wine, to bring me a packet of pads or tampons for every wine they've had that month. And clearly I had amazing clients who were probably aged between 30 and 60 who loved life and liked to try to out-exercise their bad habits, which we all try to do from time to time. Yep. And they were bringing me just bags of pads and tampons. But really the whole point to that was that I don't think that there is a woman in Australia who wouldn't be empathetic to another woman having to use socks or newspaper or wadded up toilet paper to deal with a period.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't even imagine that because, I've been privileged. I haven't been in that situation. I've never had to worry about, I've always had I don't need them now, but during my life, I always had extra put aside. You'd go shopping and throw them in your trolley. You wouldn't even think about it. And I just was actually shocked when I was brought back to reality, I suppose, because if we're not exposed to these sort of things, we don't understand that it's happening because we just think it's a basic right that women should have.
Absolutely. And if our cupboards are always full of them, then we don't realise that people go without.
No, that's right. I mean, you might get caught. That's happened occasionally. And I mean, you know, you've had an accident and you might have had to use toilet paper, but I could never imagine that just being the norm. So firstly, I take my hat off to you, because a lot of us will feel for other people and we'll know something's happening, but we won't necessarily do anything about it. And I think that's what I admire about you. You thought, well, no, I'm going to do something about this. And that must have been, I mean, where did you start? How did you start it?
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't start it thinking that it would actually solve the problem all over the place, right? I literally, in that first collection that we did, and my daughter made up the little banners for us and helped me set up the Facebook page on the 1st of March in 2015. At the beginning, I just thought we would fix something locally. I never really thought about the fact that also it's a monthly problem. It's not like we're giving a woman a warm jacket and it keeps her warm for months. You know, like last August, we collected our biggest collection drive, which is over 200,000 packets of pads and tampons. But to be honest, and it's an incredible number, but it's only enough to help 50,000 women for 4 months. Now, we have 173,000 women who turned to homelessness services last year. We have 3.2 million Australians who live under the poverty line. You've got to imagine that at least 1 million of those are menstruating girls and women.
Yes.
So collecting 200,000 is an enormous amount, but it would never be enough for the need that is out there in the Australian community.
And I also think too of the younger ones. I mean, if there are children who are living in poverty with their parents or whatever, and they're girls and they're young girls, and they don't even have access to these basic needs. It's just horrifying.
And what would that do to you as a mother? You know, that was the whole, that sometimes when you say about the catalyst, for me, it was about, I never wanted my daughters to ever think and read an article like that and think, why did somebody else not do something about that? Why is that still not, like, for me, I even internally blamed other people for writing that. How do you write it and then just let it go? But, you know, different things trigger different things in different people. If I had read an article about breast cancer or a cancer, that would not have triggered something in me, because for one, that's not an easy fix. It's a very, very complicated thing to fix. And two, cancer has never really affected my life at that stage. For me, it was really, it's an easy fix. If I could make sure that every woman in Australia knew that the problem existed, we could all fix it. So I never thought I was fixing it on my own. I thought that we were all doing it together. And ultimately, that's what Share the Dignity is. It is a collaboration, mostly of women who've gone, that's not okay. How do we do that? You know, and I think the same with It's in the Bag. And I've just been sitting here doing some stuff on that. And just the simplicity of It's in the Bag really came about because I had too much. I had too much of stuff in my bathroom. And that is an indulgence that most of us have. And that yet here are people in domestic violence refuges who just don't have anything, let alone a Christmas gift. So while we come from simple beginnings.
Well, let's talk about that. It's in the bag. I'm not patting myself on the back here, but I always do that at Christmas time. I think it's just such a lovely idea and a lovely way, and it's a reminder. It's that time of year where we're feeling in that giving mood, and so I've done that. But tell me a little bit about It's in the Bag. What that?
Well, you do deserve your pat on your back, because every single person who puts that bag together gets to bring a joy to somebody that would not have had joy, and it gives you a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, but the thing is that when I took it along and popped it in, I did up a couple, and I actually got, I think Miller's had these really cute bags that were, they were only about $5, but they were pretty patterned and little tote bags, and I packed them all up, and I got such a thrill out of doing that because I was excited for the woman that might receive it. And so I think it's just a lovely initiative. So again, back to you.
And that is the perfect intro into It's in the Bag. I think that It's in the Bag touches so very many people, from the person who puts it together. Now, when I go to Kmart or I go and I'm buying things all year round, it feels so good, right? So it's a little bit selfish and still a little bit indulgent, but I bloody love it. Absolutely love it. So putting together a bag for me feels good. So I want to do it more, right? So I would want to do it every year. Yeah. I also then think that we have these amazing volunteers that we call Shiros, and they are the backbone of Share the Dignity. They will then go into Bunnings and pick up those bags and sort through every single one of them to make sure that they are of the standard that we would be giving something to our best friend, right? Yes. So if you wouldn't be giving that bag to your best friend, and we are not giving it to a woman who's spending Christmas in a domestic violence shelter. So, 85% of the bags are perfect, but there are that 15% where a bag is a little bit too worn. We've sometimes got things, half-used lipsticks and bits and pieces in them. So we make sure that we go through all of them and make sure that they're perfect to pass on. So it touches them. It touches the staff at Bunnings. Bunnings love being part of It's in the Bag. That kindness is really infectious and creates this real aura and atmosphere through Bunnings stores in that time. And then we actually get to then give them out to the domestic violence refuges or the homelessness centres or the poverty-stricken community centres. And they don't normally get to give out a gift like that to a woman. Normally lots of presents for little kids and things like that. They're always donated, but never to mum who worked so tirelessly to make sure that she's the nurturer and love of her family. So for them, it's really special. And then to a woman who's received a gift that, I could share 100 stories, but a story of a woman who had lived in domestic violence since she'd been with her partner at the age of 15. And she was 28 when she left, and that domestic violence relationship was horrible. She'd never had a Christmas present since she was 14 years old. So to get that bag, and in her bag was all of the life's necessities, but there was a mascara in that bag.
Oh, yeah.
And a lipstick. And when I met her, she was fluttering her eyelashes. Said, I've never been allowed to wear makeup. Oh. And for her to have this mascara on made her feel pretty and made her feel like she was valuable. And that's what every single gift of It's in the Bag does. And you know what? We get to be that. We get to craft that and create that. And I think that is the beauty of It's in the Bag, that you get to have an actual impact on somebody else's life.
Yeah, I'm just getting tingles when I think about it, because it's such a simple thing to do, but look at that, a little mascara brought just so much joy to a person. And that's what I think we forget in these times. We're so busy living that, and we've got to have the biggest and the best of everything, where it doesn't have to be that. It's just a simple gift and something that they can use, that's just so appreciated. And I just love hearing about that. And
the other day I heard a story of an Indigenous, we'd sent some bags out to an Indigenous community, just things that you never ever think of. And she said in the bag was all of the life's necessities. Now this woman did not have her own toothbrush or they didn't have toothpaste, but in the bag was a pen and paper, a notebook. And she said, I've never had a notebook. They don't sell, little did I know, they don't sell notebooks out there. They don't get to write. And she was so excited about having her own pen and pad in journal. It was incredible. I was like, oh my God, I will never not put pad and pen in my bag ever again.
Yeah. Well,
because you don't know where your bag's ever going to turn up. And that was I always say on Christmas morning, I always think to myself, oh my God, I wish I was a fly on the wall, so I could see their faces and feel how we wanted them to feel.
Yes, that's what I mean. It does bring you that joy, and that's why I get excited, and I feel that way too. I sort of think, I wonder who's going to get it, and I hope they really like it, and that sort of thing. So this year's been a bit of a write-off really with COVID-19. So I suppose you've had restrictions and the way you work. But I do know that recently in Melbourne, when they had that, they had to lock down those buildings quite quickly, you were at the forefront there helping women. You started a campaign. So what did you do to get those products and other things to them?
Yeah, well, it certainly has been a tumultuous year, because actually, if you look back to January, we were flat out trying to get bags to Indigenous communities, but we actually had to take those bags back off the Indigenous communities and get them to all of those women that had lost their houses and didn't have sanitary supplies or toothbrushes or toothpaste. So we diverted that, and then we actually ended up having to make our own 1,000 bags to get out to the Indigenous communities, because we'd had to take one Rob Paul, Peter for Paul, right? So that's how our year started off. And then when COVID hit, we obviously were in our drive in March, and we had to down tools. So we literally said to all our volunteers, are the most important thing to us. So if any of them were to get sick on our watch or any watch, we'd be devastated. Yeah. So we down tools, we cut off our drive mid-March. And then in Victoria, we had we called them the towers, where they were restricted. And ultimately all we did was the Victorian Shiros went, right, everybody bring them to my house. We're taking them directly into there. And then we actually also had some other corporates donate some bulk donations so that we got them to there, so that it was one less thing that they needed to worry about. Yes. Periods weren't stopping for any pandemic. Ultimately, God, I wish you could put a break on them all the time, but like you, I don't, I had a hysterectomy last year to end the horrid years of my periods. So, but yeah, for others, it wasn't stopping for anyone, and so nor was our work that we needed to do. But we look at August and not being able to have the collections in Victoria again. Has had a really big impact on our charity. We also hold a high tea, which happens on May 28, which is around World Menstrual Hygiene Day. And we normally have 12 big locations where we have 800 people in Melbourne, 600 in Brisbane, 300 on the Gold Coast. They're everywhere. We had to cancel those. And that was devastating for us, because that is our biggest fundraiser of the year. It is how we fund our vending machines that are just, all over Australia. And you know what, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Yes. There were lots of tears, and there was lots of big decisions that had to be made this year. But at the end of the day, everybody's life was so much more important than anything else. We just had to do what we needed to do.
Yeah, it's just different times, and we've never experienced it, so it's sort of a learning curve for everyone, isn't it? Actually, it's just trying to keep people alive at the moment.
Absolutely, and to try to, and for us, we always knew that our Share the Dignity is a business. At the end of the day, we are in the business of making sure that women have access to the very basic of essentials. But having a sustainable business for any of the businesses in Australia is hard at the best of the times.
Yes.
Putting a pandemic into that stirs things around, so making sure that we have sustainability as a business and as a charity is probably our most important thing, because what's going to shake from the tree after COVID is around 5 million Australians living under the poverty line.
Yeah.
So we will be needed so much more than ever before.
And I think, though, people do get a little bit of donation fatigue, when you have all the charities, and it's difficult to say no. But I think the good thing about Share the Dignity is that it's something you can do without thinking about it. You just go shopping, throw a couple of extra things in and make up a bag, things like that. But also you have vending machines, which I didn't realise. So tell me a little bit more about what other initiatives you have, because you've got quite a lot going from when you first started. You've really developed.
Yeah, well, look, we do the collection drives where we ask people to give us sanitary items in March and in August. We're looking for pads, tampons, menstrual cups, period-proof underwear, and reusable sanitary items. So you can find a collection box in any Woolworths in Australia in those months. We then do our It's in the Bag Christmas appeal, where we do ask people to fill a new or a pre-loved handbag with essentials like sanitary items, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, soap. They're the must-haves that must go in every bag. We do 3 different types of bags. So an everyday woman's bag, a teen bag, as there's more than 28,000 teenagers who are living on the streets in Australia, which is phenomenal. We only normally collect around 12,000 teen bags each year. So we're always low on teen bags. And then we do a mum and bub bag. And the mum and bub bag is for a new mum. So it will have the basic of essentials that she needs, but we'll need to have the basic of essentials that a mum would need to go to hospital. And really that bag came about because I was hearing all of these stories about women turning up at hospital with nothing because they couldn't afford it. So they don't even give you nappies and things like that at hospitals anymore. So let alone pads and things like that. So, you know, and when I put together a nappy bag, oh my God, it comes with such love, but they're super expensive, right?
Yes.
It costs me about $220, $250 to put together a nappy bag, a baby bag.
Yeah.
So we know that people give so very generously, and it does come with such gratitude from us because we know that the impact that they have. So we do those 3 collections. You then can take your bag into any Bunnings from November 20 to 29. And then we do, so that's the core of what we do. Our vending machines are a vending machine that dispenses a free period pack that has 2 pads, 6 tampons, and it dispenses in a vending machine for free. So, and that came about when I was actually in a homelessness shelter, and a woman had come up to the counter, and behind the counter, and it was, you know, caged. The lady said, oh, can I please have some sanitary items? And one man said to the other, do you know where the sanitary items are? And he said, upstairs. So he went upstairs, came back down and said, do you want pads or tampons? And I was nearly dying on the inside because I just would never have gone up to a counter with 2 men there in the first place. I was thinking, just give them to her for crying out loud. And she said, oh, can I have both? And he said, can she have both? And I was like, oh my God, can you just give them to her? I literally said, can you just give them to her? And then I asked them why they didn't have them in the bathroom. And then they just said that sometimes people will go in and they will take the whole packet and try to return them at at supermarkets to get the money back to be able to buy food. So I thought there had to be a more dignified way for women and girls to get access to sanitary items. So the Dignity vending machine, they cost us $10,000 each machine. They dispense the period products. They also have a timing mechanism on them, so that allows no one to be able to just stand there and press the button. And the timing mechanism can be set differently for different places. So we have 350 of those machines that we have funded in Australia, which is incredible. So they are in places like low socioeconomic schools. So no girl should ever miss out on education because she doesn't have access to them. We have them in some poverty-stricken hospital areas, and they are the most used machines that we have. Because in those scenarios, you're looking at women who've been affected by family violence, poverty, mental health. There's so many scenarios that people, and homelessness is a big thing in hospital areas as well. So, and then we have them in community centres, in domestic violence services. So, you know, there will never be enough money that we will ever get donated to be able to put enough machines on walls where they need to be. Our goal is to get to 1,200 machines around Australia. That's our goal. And to be sitting at 350, we know that, you know, we're on the way. We're on the way.
Yeah. Do you receive any government funding at all, or is it just based on what you can raise in funds?
It is based on what we can raise. There comes a tie with government funding as well. You know, we did a massive push to get rid of that tampon tax, and unfortunately, when you sign the line on a government contract, you sign the line that you also won't go against what they say and do. So we do apply for grants, and some of those come from the government, but they're nothing that would tie us to not being able to do what we need to do to create the change and awareness of the charity.
Yes. Well, that's another point too. Another event that you've got coming up in October is Move for Dignity. Now, I'm a runner, so I'm interested in this one, but this is just, tell me a bit about that. It's walking.
Yeah,
it's a virtual one, I believe.
It is a virtual one.
Like
so
everything this year.
Everything. Well, normally we do a yoga for dignity on the first weekend of spring. Yes. And that's where normally yoga instructors donate a class, and thousands of women all over and men across Australia go and attend. So that's one of our bigger fundraisers as well. And we had to can that. So we also then always did Run for Dignity in October. It was a virtual event always anyway, but this year we have combined them both, and we'll probably keep it that way. So whether you choose to run, cycle, swim, yoga, horse ride, whatever it is that makes your heart happy to do, we're asking you to commit to doing that, to sign up as yourself or sign up as a team, and help us raise awareness and the funds that we need to be able to keep doing the work that we do.
Okay, and that's during October.
During October, yeah, and everyone gets a shiny medal at the end of that. So
that's good. We love getting our medals.
Most runners do love their medals, don't they?
Yes, we do. Yeah. We love getting them at the end. And I've just been running since I was 50, and I'm 63 now. So that's, 13 years.
Well done.
And so my grandsons, we always play the Olympics, because I get out all these little medals and put them around them, and they've got those. But my daughter and I always participate in the Mother's Day Classic, because my mum died from breast cancer about 35 years ago. And so that's our way of spending Mother's Day with Mum, I suppose. Yeah. We that's been a tradition that she and I do. So it's lovely to start that. But the other thing that I wanted to just ask you about was, I didn't realise that there has been such an increase in homelessness for women over 55, which is in my demographic. Yeah. And I mean, how does that happen? Why do you think that is? Is it?
I don't know. And you know what? It gives me goosebumps to think that a woman, the nurturers of the world, right, can end up, facing homelessness. And the women that I have met, because, they've ended up divorced, they've not had their own financial knowledge throughout there, have got no super, and then, they're ending up living in their cars or couch surfing, and they're so proud. But where is our village? Yeah. I'd never allow my mum to do that. But in some cases, it's because the woman is also not telling people what's going on. As well. Not that that's always the case, do you know what I mean? But I know that, and I'll never forget meeting an amazing woman who lived in a unit, rented a unit with her husband, and he died of cancer. And then 18 months later, she was diagnosed with cancer. She couldn't work and lost the unit, and then was still having treatment, but was experiencing homelessness. So,
and trying to cope with cancer as well. I mean, it's just beyond.
Didn't have any children, and her family were in another state. But I just don't understand how that happens. But that story is so very common. I remember meeting a woman at a homelessness event, and she was in a wheelchair, had a little dog, and they wouldn't give her accommodation because she wouldn't part with the dog. So, that was for her, it was the only thing that loved her unconditionally, and she would rather have been dead than to live a life without the dog. So she was in a wheelchair, going from different accommodation places. And, she was talking about using nappies to deal with her incontinence issues, because she couldn't afford incontinence pads, because incontinence pads are ridiculously expensive.
Yes.
And we never, as a collection, get enough incontinence pads as what we need.
Okay, that's good to note as well, because what I'll be doing is putting all the links and all the information in the show notes so that people can find out more and help you more. But I'm just shocked that the situation is the way it is. I suppose because I live in my little bubble, and also because I'm living in a COVID bubble as well, you just do not understand the extent of homelessness and poverty. And you hear about it, and and you sort of think, oh, well, perhaps the government's helping out if they do. But, you know, if I just can't believe those numbers. And I really, I mean, I feel for everyone, but in particular the women over 55, because that's me. And I think, well, that could be me. And I'm so lucky. I am so lucky to, well, still have a partner, but also be surrounded by family and friends who I know, if something happened, would be there to catch me and support me. And yet there's some women who are in this stage of life have nothing and no one. And that's just so sad. So sad.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like to feel like you don't have a home, but imagine feeling like nobody cared.
Yeah.
Like not knowing that people have your back. Like,
that's right.
You know, like that would be a really horrible place to be in. And, you know, there's so much value in us as we get to this age anyway, right? And I was like, why do we not have a Dr. Nanny where, you know, I was a solo parent for so many years. I would have loved to have had an older woman there to help me cook dinner and do homework and get everything organised. And there would have been a spare room for her. It's just another problem that could easily be solved, I think.
Yes. The unfortunate thing is you can't do it on your own. And, you know, there's only so much you can do. And I'm sure that gets frustrating to you at times because there's so many things you want to do. So how can people help? What can we do to start, you know, really taking this seriously? And I know that people do, but apart from just filling a bag, what can we do that is really going to help?
Yeah, I think the most powerful thing that anyone can do for us is to share the dignity, is to talk about have the conversations, make sure that we're all aware that period poverty exists, but that we also hold the solution to that. So whether you're donating in March and in August or for It's in the Bag, but you can also, you know, we will have to buy incontinence products. We will have to buy sanitary supplies with the money that we get as a charity through people's donations, because we just don't get enough donations anyway. So if you're never going to get to the store, or you've got a spare 20 or a spare $5, please donate it to us. It really helps us be able to continue the work that we do.
Yes.
But if you've got spare time, become a volunteer. This whole charity only exists because of these incredible sheroes and heroes that make a difference in their own community.
And what is involved with being a volunteer? I think you said they go and help, they pick up all the bags at the different distribution areas. What else is there that they can do for volunteering?
Yeah, there's lots of things, right from people who help us write grants, help us to get the money in. There's, you know, marketing people that we have as volunteers that help us bring It's in the Bag to fruition. Then there's people who help us with in March and August, when our boxes go out to all of the collection points around Australia, they go in and pick them up and count them and bag them and help us get them to the charities in need. So that's no different to what we need for It's in the Bag. So we can never have enough hands on decks when it comes to It's in the Bag, because, as I said, every single one of those bags needs to be checked. And last year we collected 135,000 of those bags. So the more people who do it, the more that we get to be able to do. So absolutely, that's probably the best way to be able to.
That's right. And it's good because you've got anybody with any skill set could be a volunteer. It's not just collecting the goods. It's, as you said, the marketing, probably administrative work.
Absolutely.
So many areas. So there's something that we could all do to help. And,
absolutely. She has stepped away for a little while, a lady who was in a wheelchair who had no arms and legs, and she used to help us answer our messages on Facebook with her pen and her iPad. And she felt so valuable because no one's ever thought that her time was worth anything. But to us, it was magic. It was, you know, if she's doing that, then that's more time that I get to spend doing something else.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly hear the passion and energy in your voice, and it's something that, you know, you have to be commended for, because, as I said at the beginning, we will all look at something and think about, oh, that's terrible, that shouldn't be happening, but there's very few that will actually take it to that next step and try to make a change happen and do something about it. So well done to you and all your team. And you know, if there's any way that I can share and the listeners can share the dignity, get it out there, get everybody knowing and understanding what the problem is, I think the easier then it is for people to start helping in any capacity. Now, I've so enjoyed our conversation today. I mean, I do feel quite emotional about it. I didn't really understand the extent of what women are going through, and being a woman, I just can't understand how it must be for them. I'm so appreciative and grateful that you've given us the time today to explain what it's all about and what we can do. But before we finish, I always ask my guests a question, and it's the same one. And directing it to you, Rochelle, personally, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Finding a nice balance between all the things that makes you happy and brings you joy. And, you know, for me, I have treasured friendships. I have a beautiful mother. I have beautiful daughters. I have a fabulous partner. And I get so much joy from my work. But trying to find a balance between all of that, it is hitting a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. And I just did have one more question, which I've just thought of. How has Share the Dignity changed you as a person?
It has changed me enormously. It's aged me, that's for sure, but it's I think every story that I've heard has left this massive footprint on my heart. That makes me a better person. I think that the people that I get to call now friends, who are sheroes and heroes, that, you know, I've got friends in Western Australia, I've got friends in Tasmania, I've got people that I could say I love that I would never know if I never started Share the Dignity. So for that, I'm exceptionally grateful. But for all of those women who get to have a gift on Christmas Day, I think that's the big bit for me, you know, like we get to change some people's lives, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful and rewarding. And I know we all need money to live, and unfortunately some people don't have that, and you know, you need that too. But to do something for someone else without expecting anything in return, it is a gift. You get the gift of bringing joy to someone else, and that is just such a wonderful thing. So thank you so much, Rochelle, for joining me today in conversation, and it's been such a pleasure to chat to you. I'd love to have you again on the show. And to the listeners, please go over to Share the Dignity website. I'm leaving all the links in the show notes. It's so easy for you to get involved, even in a small way. Just buy some sanitary products or whatever when you go shopping, or get involved with the different events that are on. And if you've enjoyed today's conversation, please feel free to share this with a friend so they can hear about Share the Dignity and become involved and spread the word. And also, if you did enjoy the episode, I'd love you to like it and leave me a review, and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a conversation. And until next time, remember to embrace life every day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Bye, Rochelle.
Thank you.